What's up guys? It's me again, Johnson & Johnson Powder, and welcome back to my channel. Okay. For today's vlog ay magkakaroon tayo ng isang video na kung saan ay isang malaking tulong ito sa ating mga kabataan. Kabataan. So aking mga grade 9 students out there na kung saan ay hindi sila makadungog sa akong on air later on. So may on air tayo later, no? So magpa-DJ ang kung ano itong powder karon. So I'd like you to subscribe, of course. Click subscribe, thumbs up, and click the notification bell, ikalimbang mo na, i-all mo na, para palaging updated ka sa aking lahat ng aking mga videos, okay? So sa lahat ng aking grade 9 students, kindly, I need you to watch this video because kung dili ka makasapon sa akong on-air later on, so I need you to just watch this para ma-update ka if ever you have clarifications, if you need to know something about the module that you are having right now. So this will be a very good help. So this will be helpful to you. So I need you to tune in. I need you to keep watching this vlog, okay? So later on ay pupunta tayo doon out there. Yes. Hi Ma'am Jessie. Hi teacher. Hi Ma'am Jen. So these are my colleagues. So tapos na silang mag-on-air doon, mag-discuss doon via on-air. So ako later on kasi ako yung last Pero okay lang, save the best for last, di ba? Of course. So laban lang gihapon. So mag-on-air ta later on, okay? Just keep watching.
You are listening only here on 98.3 Voice FM. At syempre, hindi niya mo magagawa ng Untitled Chapter na makikita. Ni Sir Johnson Ramoso. Okay, so I think we are ready. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, right now, together with us is Sir Johnson Ramoso. Okay, sir, good morning.
Good morning. So, once again, good morning everyone. My name is Mr. Johnson L. Ramoso, and I will be your English teacher in grade 9 level here in Misamis Oriental Institute of Science and Technology. So today, students, I am going to discuss to you the lessons in your module, which is all about modal verbs. What is a modal verb? Modal verbs are small class of auxiliary verbs, or also known as the helping verbs or the linking verbs, used commonly or mostly to express modality. When we say modality, it refers to its properties such as possibility, obligation, and more. On the other hand, modal verbs are verbs that helps when speaking about ability, making requests and offers, asking permission, and more. There are actually common modal verbs used, which are the following: can, could, may, might, must, shall, should, will, and would. These modal verbs are actually categorized into 3 parts. We have the permission, obligation, and prohibition. For the modal verbs of permission, we have can, may, and could. There are 2 ways on how to use modal verb of permission. The first one is we use can to say that someone, or the third person of the noun, has the permission. Permission means the right or ability to do something that is given by someone who has the power to decide or is allowed to do something. Example: students can register for winter classes beginning next week. So in this sentence, the one that was given permission using the modal verb can is the student, which is the third person. The second one on how to use the modal verb of permission can is we use the modal verb can when we are the one who is giving permission to others. So it only means that the first person is the one who is going to give the permission to others. For example, you can borrow my book Diane? So in this sentence, you or the first person of the noun allows Diane to use your book. On the other hand, when refusing permission to someone, we use negative forms of modal verb of permission can, which is the word cannot or can't. The word cannot or can't is a word formation called compounding. What is compounding? Compounding means combination of two or more words to form one word. So can plus not is equals to cannot or can't. Upon using it into sentence, change the word cannot into can't to make it more appropriate. Let's have an example. Can I leave early? No, you can't. So this time, the sentence shows negation or rejection or refusing of the permission. That is how you use the modal verbs can. Let's have the other one. Could. We can also use could to say that someone was allowed to do something in the past. The word could is the past tense of the word can. So let's have an example. We could use the library after lunch. So in this sentence, let us assume that the action is already done, and because of the word could, which is the past tense of the word can, it makes the whole statement in the past tense. Let's have the third modal verb of permission, may. We mostly use may for more formal situation, and may not is used to say that something is not allowed to do something. Let's have an example. Mr. Smith, may I go to the restroom? So in this sentence, it shows in a formal situation. It demonstrates a formal situation. So you are the one who is asking Mr. Smith to go to the restroom, and it is in Mr. Smith and if he or he is going to let you or allow you to go to the restroom. Okay? So let us now have a clarification on how to use can and may. What is the difference between can and may? The difference between can and may is can is used to show ability, demand, and permission. It is somehow used in informal setting. For example, can I have this apple? So this sentence shows demand and as well permission, because you are asking if these apples can be yours, right? Yes. So on the other hand, may is used to demonstrate or denote permission in a formal setting. Okay? So if can is used in informal setting, so may is used for formal setting. Let's have an example. May I leave the table? So in this sentence, you are denoting permission in a formal way, right? Okay, let's proceed to the second modal or second category of the modal verb, which is obligation. When we say obligation, it is something that is required to do because it is morally right and because of law or rule. In this category, we have two modal verbs. We have the modal verb have to and must. The modal verb of obligation, have to, is a modal verb of obligation that shows that the obligation comes from someone else, not the speaker. This is usually referring to a rule or a law. For example, they have to wear these uniforms in school. On the other hand, have to talks about rules and regulations. The authority for the obligation doesn't come from the person who is speaking. Perhaps the rule is a general law or obligation. Okay? That is how you use have to. Now let's proceed to the second modal verb of obligation, which is must. We use must to talk about obligation. We use must to talk about obligation. Often, when we use must, the authority for the obligation comes from the person who is speaking. If the first modal verb of obligation talks about the law, comes from someone else, then the modal verb of obligation must talks about or refers to someone who is speaking. Let's have an example. I must see to it that I will be on top of classes. So you are the one who is requiring that obligation because that is your goal, right? Let's have another example. I must stop smoking. So you are using must because you are obliged or you wanted to do something for yourself. I must stop smoking because it is right and just, right? So aside from that, must modal verb indicate necessity or something we need to. That is why when we say I must stop smoking, it refers the verb must here refers to modal verb which is obligation. Now lastly, we will talk about the modal verb of prohibition, the third one. Prohibition is an act of not allowing something to be used or done. It is somehow called prohibit or something that is not allowed to. So in this category, we have two modal verbs. The first one is can't. Can't, no. We have these two modal verbs, can't and mustn't or must not. These two modal verbs are used to show that something is prohibited or not allowed. Can't is usually used to give idea of something that is against the rules. Again, always remember that can't is the one is usually used or gives idea of something that is against the rules. Again, it is against the rules. For example, you can't drive in the city unless you are 18. In this sentence, it is clearly stated that someone is not allowed to drive unless they are 18, which is actually a fact and a general rule. Okay, so now let's proceed to the word mustn't or must not. We use mustn't or must not if something is forbidden. So let's have an example. You mustn't tell John. So the sentence here states that someone is prohibited to tell John. So you are not allowed to tell John, right? So let us not confuse ourselves on how to use have to and must not to or mustn't, because they are both showing or demonstrating that you are not allowed or something is not allowed. So let's have, aside from the categorized modal verbs, there are actually modal verbs that plays a role in grammar. Number one, we have will. Will is used to show a wish, prediction, request, demand, order, and assumption. For example, will you please keep quiet? So in this sentence, it is showing a demand and an order that you are demanding the person to please keep quiet. Now let's proceed to other modal verb, which is the word would. Would is used to show a wish or to request in a polite manner and sometimes to express habits. Again, would is used to show a wish or to request in a polite manner and sometimes to express habits. For example, would you please give me $100? So this time, would was used to show request in a polite manner by using the term please. Again, would is used to request in a polite manner. Always remember that. The third one is might. Might is used to show present and future possibility. Again, might is used to show present and future possibility. For example, Mrs. Smith must be sleeping by now. Let us not disturb her. So you are predicting or you are showing future possibility that Miss Smith might be sleeping by now, right? Okay, so now let's proceed to the fourth one, which is the modal verb should. Actually, modal verb should is a modal verb of obligation where it is used for soft recommendation or personal advice. So if you wanted to give personal advice to your friends or your colleagues or your loved ones, you are going to use the word or the modal verb should, okay? So, for example, you should go and check your best friend's condition. It will be helpful in her recovery. So in this sentence stated here that you are giving an obligation or that your friend is obliged to go to visit her best friend, for it will be a great help for the recovery. And also as well, it demonstrates a personal advice. Okay, now let's proceed to the fifth one or the last one. We have shall. Shall is used to express when asking what to do, offer and give suggestion. Again, shall is used to express asking what to do, offer and give suggestion. For example, shall I call a cab? So when you're going to say shall I call a cab, it demonstrates a request. I know it's not actually a request, but it expresses an asking. You are asking the person if he can call a cab. Should I call a cab? Right? You are giving an offer, and you are as well giving suggestion. So those are the modal verbs that were not categorized. Okay? So to wrap these things up as a sort of summary again, modal verbs are a small class of auxiliary verbs. Always remember that. And we have these modal verbs: can, could, may, might, must, shall, should, will, and would. And also we have the three category of modal verbs: the modal verb permission, obligation, and prohibition. In permission, we have can and could. Can, may, and could. For obligation, we have to and must. And lastly, for the prohibition, those are can't and mustn't or must not. So always remember those modal verbs for you not to be able to be confused. Remember, confusion leads to distraction. So that will be all, and thank you for listening to 98.3 Moist FM.
Okay, so that's it, no? About to si Sir Johnson.